Well, welcome. You're listening to Sports Econ 101, the show where we discuss sports topics from a business perspective. I'm your host, Edward Brown, along with my co-host, Russell Jackman, because Glenn is off today. And at each commercial break, we're going to ask a sports trivia question. Hey, do you remember a couple of weeks ago we had Say It Ain't Joe?
Yes.
Okay, well, this is a Say It Ain't So, Joe, again. So we'll see.
Okay, so take a week off and I get the same trivia stuff. Hopefully,
they're all
featuring people that were featuring people who are alive this millennium.
Let's see. One of them, two of them, two out of three, yes.
Okay, all right.
Still alive.
I'll take it.
All right,
I'll take it.
Okay, and when we come back after this short break, we're going to talk about Kyrie Irving and Washington State coach Popovich. I want to also talk a little bit about Cam Newton, John Gruden. MLB is going to be starting to pay housing for minor league players, which is pretty cool. And then Patrick Mahomes' mom wants to change some of the stats on the interceptions, and I understand why. Excuse me. Sorry about that.
Wow.
Okay, I know. I
might be the only one able to do this broadcast after all.
Well, I had some coffee and it just kind of stuck in my throat for some reason. All right, let's see this segment. Is
you might want to grind the beans next time.
Yeah, you know what? I should have thought of that. I can't believe I didn't think of that. Grounds that have not been ground yet. That's a tough one. All right, this segment of Sports Econ 101 is sponsored by Pacific Private Money. Check them out at pacificprivatemoney.com. And stay with us. You are listening to Sports Econ 101 with Edward Brown and Russell Jackman. Don't touch that dial. We're going to be right back. Welcome back to Sports Econ 101. I'm Edward Brown along with Russell Jackman. Vern Glenn hopefully will join us next week. He is off today. Actually, you know what? It's his anniversary, that rascal.
I was thinking he was so excited with the start of the NBA season tonight that he just couldn't contain himself.
You know what? Maybe that's the case, and he just lied to me and said it was his anniversary. But
because that's my other mistress is the NBA season. I am married to it. And I'm looking so forward to the start of the Warriors season. I think this year is going to be one of the most important years in the history of the Warriors franchise. Because it's either going to be that they're contenders with who they have now, and they're going to make one final run with guys like Curry and Steph and Clay, and they're going to put those pieces in place. Even if they don't win a title this year, they're going to put pieces in place to make a run at another title in the next 2 or 3 years, or it's all going to collapse on them, and they've got to utterly rebuild and find the next Steph Curry, the next Draymond Green, the next Klay Thompson. And it all is on the shoulders of Klay Thompson. It really is. We know what we're going to get out of Steph. He looks fabulous. In his last preseason game, he had 41 points in 3 quarters. I know that's preseason. But I mean, you could just empty out the floor, give me a basketball and tell me to score 41 points. I might fall over dead before I ever actually got to point 41.
Now, how healthy is Klay?
That is the $64 million question. Well, it's not. It doesn't quite earn $64 million, but it's close. And the Warriors simply cannot afford to have that much dead salary space on the roster. I don't know if you heard, but the Warriors had to release Avery Bradley, who was snatched right up by, of course, the Lakers, because they just are way over the cap. In fact, I heard a statistic that said that the Warriors' salary tax is higher than most teams' payrolls right now. Is
that right? How much was it?
Yes. That's your sports econ moment for you.
Yeah,
I think they pay $120 million in salary tax, somewhere between $120 and $180 million in salary tax.
And where does that money go?
Back into the NBA, which I'm sure the NBA just rubs its hands in glee and is thrilled with the fact that the Warriors are willing to spend themselves into oblivion. On the other hand, this is the first year that the Chase Center is going to be truly open to fans.
Mm. Finally opened it up, and it's funny because it was a brand new venue, and then they had to close it because of COVID.
They make up for the last couple of years where they have had absolutely no revenue compared to what they get when they fill the arena up.
Yeah, crazy. Hey,
so I thought at least I should bring this thing back to sports econ for a few minutes before we get into all your other crazy stuff that you've got on your agenda.
Okay, that works.
So, okay.
Hey, so staying on the NBA for a little bit here. So the latest on Kyrie Irving. All right, what's the deal? He's still not going to get vaccinated.
I guess he doesn't have Andrew Wiggins' email address. Yeah. Those two probably haven't talked a whole lot because Andrew Wiggins, quote unquote, took a stand, and that stand didn't last for very long. Once he did the math and figured out, what his paycheck was going to be like without, getting the injection. So I think it's going to come down to that. But Kyrie Irving's made a lot of money, more money than Wiggins, and he could easily sit the season out and have it not really affect his bottom line.
Yeah, so obviously it's not a money situation with him. Of course, these guys, you assume that they love to play, so that's part of it too. Is not just the idea of I'm losing money, but hey, man, I want to be.
Kyrie is exceptionally stupid. I mean, for NBA players aren't the most intelligent people on the planet. Sometimes coaches are, but the players aren't. But Kyrie is. I mean, he believes the Earth is flat. That was another revelation from him a couple of years ago. He's, I think, very gullible, and people have gotten into his ear and told him how evil the vaccine is. And even though 85, maybe 90% of the NBA is vaccinated right now, he believes he's allowed to be an exception to that rule because he's Kyrie Irving. And we got news for you, Kyrie. You aren't an exception to the rule. In fact, you're going to be the thing that we're going to use as a test case to show everybody what it's like when you decide to take a stand and avoid vaccination, a lot like that coach in Washington
State. Okay, so hold on, a couple things. So first of all,
yes.
The Earth is not flat. That's actually
right. William Shatner checked. William Shatner went and checked.
Yeah,
he said that as one of his tweets.
Yeah, I mean, not only has it been scientifically proven, but I have no idea why the people, 1,000 years thought it was flat, because even before that, in biblical times, it's in the Bible that the Earth is round. It talks about going round the world, round the Earth. So I don't know why it doesn't say go flat the Earth, So I don't know where that comes with. And I guess you could say, okay, well, go ahead, Kyrie, just keep taking an airplane. And go to the end, or a ship, and go to the end of the Earth. I mean, it's just kind of that to me is a little bit silly. But
plus, what people say is that if the Earth was flat, cats would have pushed everything off of the edge by now.
I like that. That's pretty good. But this whole okay. So let's go to the Washington State coach. He's being fired. Because Washington State has a mandate that all employees of the state have to get vaccinated. Now, unlike Irving's case, like if Irving suddenly decided, hey, you know what? Okay, I'm going to change and I'm going to go ahead and get vaccinated, he'd be right back in the lineup. But if Rolovich suddenly goes, you know what? Okay, I'm going to forget my stand. I'm going to go ahead and take the vaccine. I don't think he's going to come back. At least not to Washington State. They've moved on. So
and he really burned bridges in what he did, and he's replaceable. It's not like Washington is an unbeaten team and he's for sure going to the national championship. He's a mediocre coach, and Kyrie Irving at least has a championship ring, and he's part of the plans of Brooklyn to go to a title. but Rolovich is nothing special, and that does say something. When you aren't somebody special, suddenly your privilege to act like you don't need to get that shot kind of goes by the wayside.
Yeah, we're going to cut to a break here pretty soon, and I want to continue on with this because I'm looking at this whole, if you get the vaccine, in theory, what's it supposed to do? It doesn't prevent you from getting it. It's supposed to lessen the effects of it potentially, but then that's you. That's not me. It's like putting on a motorcycle helmet helps you, doesn't help me. But we'll go into that in just a minute, okay? When we come back. Okay, so here's our first trivia question. Say it ain't so, Joe, again. This Joe was the manager. It was in his 5th managerial season in 2008. We're talking baseball here. But nobody knew him until he took his team to the World Series. Who is this manager? Does that make sense? All right.
Sort of. I'm not sure I have the answer, but yes, I get your question.
All right, so again, we're going to read this again. So this Joe was the manager. It was his 5th season. This Joe, the manager, was in his 5th managerial season in 2008, but nobody knew him until he took his team to the World Series. Who is this manager? That's our question. All right, what Joe is this? All right, well, you got the first part of his name right, Joe. What's his last name? All right, stay with us. Sports Econ 101. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Sports Econ 101. I'm Edward Brown along with Russell Jackman. Our first trivia question about Say It Ain't So, Joe, again. This Joe, the manager, was in his 5th managerial season in 2008, but nobody knew him until he took his team to the World Series. Who is this manager?
We either need Vern back or we're going to have to start asking easier trivia questions.
Okay.
The only one I can think of off the top of my head, since I'm driving and I can't look it up, is Joe Torre, and I doubt that's probably
no, Joe Madden.
Joe Madden.
Yeah, was that?
Well, there you go.
No, there you go. Okay, so now continuing on with the Washington State coach being fired for not getting vaccinated. So let me ask you this question: what if he had a medical condition where his doctor were to, bless you, by the way, where his doctor says, hey, listen, because of this guy's medical condition, if he were to get vaccinated, his health would deteriorate. Maybe he's taking medication for a heart condition, let's say, or an ulcer or kidneys or something.
But he's not.
No, I know, but I mean,
not.
Okay, but what if he was? The answer would still be, sorry, too late. Too bad for you. Either you get vaccinated or get fired, right? You can't make an exception for him.
Well, I'm not sure about that. I'm not sure about that. There might be ways in a situation where if it's a medical issue that he could possibly get by with daily testing.
Yeah, but why not do that now? I mean, Washington State has the money, so you can't say that, oh, I'm sorry, we don't have the money to test you. They were doing that for NBA players and everybody else. I mean, I guess I have a hard time with this overreaching. And again, I want to make it clear, I am not an anti-vaxxer person, okay? But I don't like where governments force things upon you that are, you're getting a forced medical procedure. I mean, what if they were to suddenly say, you know what, we want, the government says, you know what, we have too many people in the United States. We're just going to start forcing all little girls to get hysterectomies.
So if you sneeze or you cough on somebody, they can get pregnant.
No, not to the best of my knowledge.
No. So that's the difference.
Wait, hold on. Forget COVID. Before COVID, I could end up accidentally sneezing on somebody and giving them the flu or whatever little disease I might have, right? It doesn't. The thing is, people who are getting vaccinated are still getting COVID. Maybe their response to it is less effects, but it doesn't stop it from happening. And all it's doing is protecting the person who, like, you got vaccinated, right? So if you get COVID, you're in theory your medical situation will be not as harmed than if you didn't.
Correct.
But you getting vaccinated does not affect me. You see what I mean?
It does, in the sense that we need to find a way to curb the number of cases that we have. We're going to get to 1 million people dead in the United States, probably in the next 3 or 4 months.
Well, you have to be careful. You have to be careful with the statistics, because people are getting run over by cars and they can't figure out why they died, so they're attaching the word COVID to it.
I don't think that's the.
Well, okay, I'm being a little facetious when I say run over by cars, but
you really think that the 700,000 number? How many do you think of that 700,000?
Honestly, I don't know. But I mean, we've had all kinds of breakouts with Ebola and SARS and all this other kind of stuff. And I don't know how many people died from that, but that stuff was really contagious. I guess I just have a hard time with the government just mandating one thing.
But they've mandated vaccinations for decades. There have been mandated vaccinations. I didn't protest getting a polio shot. I didn't protest getting mumps shots and measles shots.
No. This I cannot verify this. But I did see a screenshot. I'd have to actually check this out. So I'm going to qualify this with saying I can't prove this yet. But supposedly, by the time the polio vaccine came out in the 1950s, I think, polio was already starting to decline. They didn't catch it at the very beginning, and I'm just kind of my point is, I'm just saying, I wonder if maybe what would have happened had they not come out with the polio vaccine, that it would have just eventually gone away. Now the thing is,
or there would have been hundreds of millions of people killed over the years, and I mean, it was devastating enough before it was eliminated. When was the last time you saw someone with whooping cough? You know, that killed a lot of people too.
I wouldn't choose that one, because that one's still around. Polio, I think, is a better example.
It's still around, but it's.
But I don't know.
But I didn't catch it, and your kids didn't catch it, and there's a reason why.
So, Russell, are you going to take every shot that the government says, well, now there's this new thing, take this one, now there's this new one, take this? I mean, you know, there's always,
if there is for COVID, I will. Yes, I will, because COVID is not your average disease. In fact, as an interesting thing, I was in court yesterday, and I was talking to a judge, and the judge himself had suffered from COVID. The phone systems were down, so we had some time to talk. And he has lost his sense of taste completely for maybe a year, or maybe for the rest of his life. He says it's hell.
How old is he?
He's maybe like about our age, you know, within the 50 to 60 range.
Okay. And I don't know what his other health conditions are, because I mean, I lost my sense. You know, I was like, again, I think I was one of the first people who actually had COVID, because it was before anybody even knew what COVID was.
Before it was cool.
It was very interesting. I gotta say, it was very interesting. Yeah, I was sick, and I did lose my sense of taste for no, not as long as that guy did, the judge. My eyeballs hurt. I was really tired. And that being tired probably lasted a month. And again, this was back in January of 2020. So, you know.
No flu has ever done that to anybody. Flu doesn't do that to people. It doesn't permanently change them. And for the most part, the vast majority of people who get the flu, you make a recovery from the flu, you're almost always going to be fully recovered unless you get an absolutely severe case. But COVID does stuff that we do not understand. It does stuff, and
so now the thing is, okay, so
we
now
don't get, and if we don't,
and again, I'm not a doctor, but so I'm just kind of wondering. Okay, I'm wondering if nobody got vaccinated, would they have to worry about this variant? Because what ends up happening is, like, you know how, like, when you do rat poison and stuff, the rats figure out how to get immune to it, and then they move on to something else. So I'm just kind of curious to go, okay, well, now that there's so many people who are vaccinated, that now you got this new variant, and guess what? You're now all the people who got vaccinated are going to have to get this a booster shot, and then when it changes again, they're going to have to get another kind of booster shot. I mean, this thing will never end, will it? Are you ready to take
But
booster
we
shots?
could be, the thing is, yeah, I'm ready to take booster shots. And I mean, it wasn't that hard to get the shot in the first place. But the thing is, we could also have COVID and the variants if we didn't
Yeah.
do something about that. We could have all, 15 different things running
Okay, so
around and no way of dealing with it. And
okay, so
the variants are going to happen whether or not people get vaccinated. The mutations.
Okay, let me ask you,
Okay.
just for you personally, are you not concerned about the potential long-term effects? Because they're kind of unknown, right?
No.
I'm not saying that you're
No, I'm not concerned.
Okay.
I'm not concerned. I'm way, way, way more concerned about the long-term effects of getting a severe COVID
Gotcha.
infection.
Okay, and that's a very
long-term.
I totally get that. It's the lesser of two evils. You go, yeah, I'd rather take a risk.
I don't consider vaccinations evil. I don't. I think that they're the savior of humanity.
No, that's why I'm saying I'm not an anti-vaxxer. I'm not saying it's evil. I just don't know what the long-term effects are that we might. Here's a good example.
You just did call it the lesser of two evils.
Here's a good example. Back in the 50s, there a lot of women who were getting morning sickness. Doctors figured out, you know what, we'll give them this thing called thalidomide.
Yeah, but that's, you see, I'm not going to let you use that as an example because you can't spread morning sickness to other people.
No,
my point, but that's not accidentally sneeze or cough on someone.
No, you're right. You're right.
I know you're going to talk about thalidomide.
Yeah, but yeah, my point about it is, the thing is doctors giving stuff out that they don't know what the long-term effects are. That's the only thing I'm talking about. I'm not talking about like spreading it or that sort of thing. Hey, tell you what, because we're gonna move on to other things other than COVID, but because I want to talk about John Gruden.
Okay.
And stuff. All right. So this was at least very spirited. It'll make for good radio. Thank you very much, Russ.
Yes.
Okay.
Thanks.
We can still be friends.
Well, I believe strongly in it, and I've known too many victims now of COVID that I just can't stand by and say, what if, or make comparisons between other diseases and what COVID is all about.
Okay, and I guess you haven't met anybody who's had bad effects from the vaccine.
No.
Okay. Yeah, well, when you do, then maybe that'll change a little bit, but maybe. Okay, here's our
probably not.
Probably not. No, you're definitely you're set.
Because until someone I know dies from getting an injection, a vaccination, it's not going to compare to the people that I know that have died from it.
And that's fair. I totally understand that. Okay, here we go. Second trivia question. This Joe was one of the few players to hit 400 in a season. He left baseball with a 356 average. Who is this Joe? All right, stay with us. Sports Econ 101. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Sports Econ 101. Again, I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with Russell Jackman. Our second trivia question was, this Joe was one of a few players to hit 400 in a season. He left baseball with a 356 average. Who was this Joe?
Is this the guy from another century or from another millennium?
Well, no, he didn't play in the 1800s. He played in the 1900s, in the early 1900s.
I'll throw it out, Joe Cap, but I was thinking
wasn't
he might
go
someone obscure like
Cap?
that.
You're either thinking of Cap Anson or Joe Cap, the football.
Yeah, he probably was.
Now, come on, who's shoeless?
Yeah.
Joe Jackson.
Joe Jackson.
Yeah. I know you've heard of shoeless Joe Jackson. Okay.
Yes, I have. Wasn't coming to mind though. Wasn't. Well,
I figure if he hit
popping to the front of my
lifetime
mind,
average of 356, I think is number 2 or 3. Got Ty Cobb at I think 358 or something. But okay, so now John Gruden. Do you think there's a possibility that he can come back in any fashion at all?
Underline, highlight.
We talked
put that in bold.
Vern and I talked about this last week, that it was kind of interesting how a lot of these emails and stuff, I mean, it's just from one person to another. A lot of people think things, but they don't put it in writing, i.e. emails. And so, how do you take someone's personal email and make it out to the public and go, hey, do you realize this guy actually thinks this way? You know, I mean, what would happen if they did that to all of us?
You know, even if they did that to me, there still wouldn't be that flat out racist, homophobic, left, you know, just absolutely uh, disgusting words about humanity
Now,
that
do you think over
John
time, though,
Gruden.
things kind
Yes, even over time, I'm confident that I don't say those words about people.
no, no, no. I mean,
And
no, I mean, I don't. I know you don't. I'm just saying, over time, do you think the public eventually forgives people?
no, no, not on something like this. Plus, and this is the most important thing. It's sort of the Kyrie Irving versus the Rolovich situation. Is that when you're a winner, they can find reasons to keep you around. But when you're a loser, like John Gruden has been as head coach of the Raiders, he was a bad coach. He wasn't very effective as a coach anyway. So why bring him back? What
No, no. But remember, he had didn't he have his own show? And he was a kind of a color commentator. I mean, definitely he won't
yeah,
be back soon. But I was just
right.
kind of wondering
But
about the future.
he's box office poison, as they would say in the business. He's
No,
that's
I get
from Mommy Dearest. He's
Oh, yeah.
box office poison, and there's no reason why would you want to bring him back. His only really positive association is with Tampa Bay,
Yeah.
and they have their coach that they want. Unless Trump wants him as a running mate for his 2024 election, I don't see where else he's going to be welcome. And football, considering how many players are in the minorities, and considering that he told the commissioner what he thought of him,
Yeah,
telling
that's
him,
not a good thing.
yeah, how many times can you tell your ultimate boss that you think he's an F word and a P word, and say it over and over again? And emails are not an accident. It's one thing that when you're in the heat of a conversation with
Oh,
someone,
sure.
like if you and I got into a really heated conversation over the radio, and something slipped out, that's
Yeah.
one thing. But in an email, that's not an oops accident. It's something that you had to type it out. You
Yeah.
had to hit send. You
That-
had a chance to review what
that's
you were
true.
going to say, and you chose not to. And now it's out there for the world to see. I am amazed that the NFL sat on it for a decade and a half and didn't do anything about it.
Well,
That
how did
is a
how
little
did they know?
disturbing.
How did they know about it?
Well, apparently they were going through their server to look at stuff that was going to snag Daniel Snyder in his whole sexual harassment stuff.
Oh, a decade
And
ago. Yeah.
by the way, I don't know when this is going to happen, but Urban Meyer should send a huge thank you card to John Gruden for the fact that he was going to be the whipping boy for everybody, and now nobody gives a damn about what Meyer did.
So, and also John Gruden, he's, again, like we talked about, he's a coach. He's not a player. I mean, there's been,
Right.
there's been guys who've been convicted of murder. I mean, well, here, a good example, Michael Vick, right? I mean, all the dog situation, dog fighting, and
That's
eventually,
horrible, and I still haven't forgiven him.
yeah, no, I get it, I get it. But I'm saying that, I mean, he actually even went to prison, I think, and then he got out, and he actually did come back for a short time with the Eagles, I think, right?
Oh yeah,
Right?
yeah, he did, and people loved him because he could throw a football, but he disgusts me as a human being, and I have absolutely no. Again, what he did wasn't an accident. It wasn't something that he did
Oh, no.
because
Yeah,
he was under a misapprehension or a mistake. It's not even like drunk driving, which is bad enough. But
exactly.
when you electrocute a dog because they don't fight well enough for you,
Yeah.
that's something that I can never forgive.
So you don't like dog fighting, but cockfighting is more your style?
Oh my
No,
God.
I yeah.
I hate all animal sports. I do not like horse racing. I do not like the rodeo. I don't like dog racing. You name it. I think humans should be watching other humans, or at the very worst, robots fighting each other.
Yeah.
but animals have no say in the matter, and humans should leave them alone, especially when it comes to sport. I just don't believe
Yeah, I mean,
any of those sports are
I
fair.
think just like riding a horse, it doesn't seem like, unless you weigh 500 pounds, the horse, who knows if the horse minds it. I mean, sometimes you can kind of tell that they actually enjoy taking their rider. But horse racing, though, I mean, with all the horses that have died and all the
Oh,
steroids and all this kind of stuff, I agree with you, my friend. That is not a fun thing. And who knows what happens with like the greyhound races? They just chase
it's
a rabbit.
awful.
It's probably
It's awful. And the rodeo, I feel the same way. I think it's horrible
yeah.
that they, when I first went to a rodeo, I went once on a date to a rodeo. My date actually insisted that we go. And she's from the country.
Uh-huh.
And I was like, well, why are they bucking so much? And they said, well, look at that belt they put around their waist, which, constricts their, genitals. I said, well, yeah, if you did that to me, I would jump around and try to smack the person off that was riding on me too.
So it's not the spurs that they keep kicking him with?
No, if you notice, there's a belt that goes around the waist of the bull or the horse, and it constricts, their testicles. And as soon as they take that belt off, the horse stops bucking.
Wow. You know what?
It's awful.
If you did that to me, I think I would buck too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I thought. And that was the last time I watched a rodeo. That was in 1991. Okay. So
same thing. Same thing with like bullfighting. I mean, gosh darn it.
Yes.
First of all, they drug the bulls so that they don't have that
right.
much energy. And then they stick them with those things. It's just awful.
I agree. I agree. If it's humans know what they're getting involved in, and if they do, then that's something they decide on doing. And so I don't mind seeing ultimate fighting and seeing, guys, beat each other senseless, in the ring or whatever, boxing, exactly. But doing that to an animal is totally unfair. I'm even so embarrassed that in the history of wrestling, they used to have guys wrestling bears and
alligators and stuff. Yeah, you're right, because I mean, it's only for our entertainment, and there's no good use for that. I mean, it's one thing if you kill a deer because you're going to eat it, you're hungry. We can have that discussion later, but just the fact of just pure sport. I can't disagree with you, my friend. Hey, now that Cam Newton finally got vaccinated, where do you think he'll land? Mr. Russell? Uh-oh, Russell hold on, we're gonna pause this a bit here, because Russell just had to get off and he'll come right back on.
Thanks.
All right, Russell is back. So Russell, where do you think Cam Newton, now that he got vaccinated, where do you think he's gonna land?
Geez, there are certainly some teams that need quarterbacks right now. That's who knows. The 49ers may have to pull that trigger if Garoppolo and Trey Lance can't keep from getting hurt every other game. But I think he's just gonna. I'm a little surprised that no team has made him an offer to pick him up right now, given how many injuries there have been. So I think he's just going to bide his time, wait for someone else to get hit. I mean, Teddy Bridgewater isn't the world's most durable athlete. You might see Tom Brady want to, take some time off, and once he, clinches the playoffs, maybe he'll throw a bone over to Cam. It's tough because he's so diminished as far as, he's not a championship quarterback. He is truly a backup to somebody, but there will be a team that gets desperate in the next few weeks when somebody inevitably gets hurt.
Maybe they'll pick up Tebow again. Actually, one quick thing I wanted to mention about John Gruden's firing and the fallout. There's got to be thousands of emails floating around that's going to implicate others, don't you think? I mean, they're going to start looking at every single email that was ever sent by anybody in sports.
Well, I mean, if you use the NFL server to send emails back and forth, they have every right to go and inspect those emails and to foist anyone on their petard if they said something that they shouldn't have said.
Well, and then who's the judge and what is the standard? Is it
the judge is Goodell, and the standard is anything that pisses him off.
Gotcha.
I don't understand why John Gruden couldn't just go get himself a Yahoo account or a Gmail account or whatever and use that to spout all his filth on. Why he had to use the NFL's actual proprietary servers to do all this stuff is where he's got the problem.
I'm going to say he didn't think about it. He didn't think he was going to get caught.
Nope.
That's all. Nope. But that's the other thing is, so what if he uses a Yahoo account and someone hacks into it and says, hey, by the way, this is John Gruden and this is what he did. It's the fallout's still going to be there because they're going to go, this is the kind of human you are, right?
But at least you have more control over, or you have a way to control your Yahoo account better.
True, but still, but as long as you're the person who is spouting that stuff off, they could still kind of go, look, you've just proven yourself that that's who you are. Hey, we're going to cut to our last commercial break. Third trivia question of Say It Ain't Joe again. Only a few avid baseball fans remember this Joe, the catcher, even though he won a National League MVP. He mostly played with the Braves and the Cardinals. Which Joe is this? Now, do you know which Joe I'm talking about?
I'll try. I'm not so. My record hasn't been so good so far.
Come back. If you don't get it, I'll give you a big hint. Okay. All right.
All right.
Sports Econ 101 will be right back for some closing comments. Welcome back to Sports Econ 101. Last time for today, I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with Russell Jackman. Only a few avid baseball fans remember this Joe, the catcher, even though he won a National League MVP. He mostly played with the Braves and Cardinals. Which Joe is this?
I'll throw it out there and say Joe Carter.
No, because he played with the Toronto Blue Jays. Okay, this Joe also managed the Yankees.
Joe Torres?
There you go.
I did say it earlier.
Yeah, when I said the Cardinals, I wonder if you were going to say Joe Garagiola, but he was not.
No.
he was good. He was good, but in fact, I think he won the World Series in '67 with Bob Gibson, if I'm not mistaken.
When I went the year I was born, I don't remember.
Oh, come on. The thing is, I was born in 1960, and I know the Pittsburgh Pirates, Game 7, Mazeroski hitting a home run to beat the Yankees. You know, stuff like that.
No, but if we want to do wrestling trivia one of these days, I think I could come up with lots of stuff that you wouldn't be able to answer. In fact, I remember
I'm sure. Threw some. But you know what? I'll bet you I can come up with some wrestling stuff that you can't answer. Maybe, you know what? I'll have to do that next week. How's that? All right.
Let's see if I can.
Hey, here's our thoughts of the day. I'm great at multitasking. I can waste time, be unproductive, and procrastinate all at once. I'm pretty good, huh?
Bingo.
And I can't believe I got fired from the calendar factory. All I did was take a day off. But I got a laugh out of you.
Yeah, that is good.
I'm proud of myself.
That doesn't happen too often. Absolutely.
I know.
Save that for Vern.
Yeah. I was gonna say he's not here. Usually you go on the dad jokes. Okay. Tune in next week to Sports Econ 101. We'll be discussing sports topics from a business perspective and asking more sports trivia questions, maybe even wrestling. Thanks for listening. On behalf of our team, I'm your host, Edward Brown. We'll see you next week.
Adios, America.